Here are the top stories for today, October 16, 2019. Malacanang will not interfere on the Supreme Court decision on the poll protest filed by former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo dares Bayan Muna Secretary General Renato Reyes to offer solutions instead of finding fault on the country's transport system. The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission names 3 most corrupt agencies in the country, and more rebels and members of terrorist groups surrender to the government.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, Malacanang said it will not interfere on the Supreme Court's decision on the poll protest filed by former Senator and losing Vice Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos. Earlier Tuesday, the PET allowed the release of a committee report on the result of revision of ballots from the 3 pilot provinces picked by Marcos in his election protest against Vice President Leni Robredo. The 3 pilot provinces chosen by Marcos are Camarines Sur, Negros Oriental, and Iloilo. Marcos believed that the said provinces had suffered from vote rigging during the conduct of the 2016 vice presidential derby.
We never interfere with the function and duty and work of any co-equal branch as well as independent constitutional bodies. So we'll leave it at that. Whatever the decision of the court, we should abide by it. Let the parties argue their case in court, and the PET will have to render its decision.
Meanwhile, Malacanang said President Duterte's administration has prepared a comprehensive plan for the effective implementation of its ambitious Build, Build, Build program. This as Bayan Secretary General Renato Reyes claims that the Duterte government's infrastructure program is not a comprehensive plan for mass transport, but a mere list of infrastructure projects. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo lamented that instead of offering solutions, Reyes opted to find fault with the government amid issues plaguing the country's transport system. He said Reyes should first trust the government's resolve to bring comfort to Filipinos who have to endure the ordeal of daily commuting.
Ang alam ko, merong plano ang gobyerno dyan. Baka si Renato, meron siyang mungkahi para makakatulong. Ang problema naman kasi sa kanya, di tanongin niya, gumawa siya ng formal letter inquiring from these departments kung anong plano. And then kung walang response, saka siya mag-criticize na wala. Until such time, give the benefit of the doubt of these departments that they have a comprehensive plan.
The Department of Transportation on Tuesday said that maintenance and rehabilitation provider Sumitomo will study how to properly operate the Dalian trains. DOTR Assistant Secretary for Communications Goddess Hope Libiran said Sumitomo will study the initial deployment and is not hesitant on using the trains to expand the capacity of the MRT-3. The initial deployment of the Dalian train will end in October, which will allow Sumitomo to begin rail replacement works in November. Recently, the DOTR announced the operation of 1 Dalian train set on the MRT-3 from 8:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. every night until October 31st as part of its initial deployment. Puwersa ng Bayaning Atleta or PBA party list said on Tuesday that the issue on the so-called Ninja Cups only highlighted the need to separate the Internal Affairs Service or IAS from the PNP chain of command. PBA Representative Jericho Nograles said that an independent IAS is needed now more than ever due to allegations of cover-up by top police officials on the wrongdoings of their subordinates. Nograles noted that under the current structure, the IAS, which is an essential part of the disciplinary mechanism of the PNP, reports directly to the PNP chief and can only recommend an action. He said if the IAS becomes independent, the recommendations of the agency will be given more importance. Meanwhile, PNP officer in charge, Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa, on Tuesday ordered all officials to continue the implementation of its ongoing programs, including the internal cleansing. Gamboa temporarily replaces PNP Chief General Oscar Albayalde, who stepped down from his post and went on a non-duty status ahead of his retirement on November 8. In the coming days, Gamboa said the PNP will come up with a briefing on the PNP internal cleansing program to inform the public on how serious the PNP is running after rogues in uniform. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is planning to distribute rice to 4-piece beneficiaries. And the National Bureau of Investigation is looking into the alleged dumping of overseas medical waste in the country. More on this from Teresa Montemayor.
The National Bureau of Investigation is looking into the liability of the U.S.-based group World Medical Relief Incorporated, as well as its local broker and consignee, for allegedly dumping medical wastes in the country. The group has been allegedly dumping medical wastes and defective medical equipment worth 45 billion pesos, which includes unusable and discarded dialysis machines and expired medicines. In other news, the Department of Social Welfare and Development said it is currently planning to shift from cash to rice allocation for its 4.4 million 4-piece beneficiaries. About 360,000 bags of 50 kilograms of rice will be needed per month for distribution to the 6 regions that were selected for pilot testing. These are the provinces of Cagayan and Isabela, Ilocos Norte, Tarlac and Nueva Ecija, Occidental and Oriental Mindoro, Iloilo and Zamboanga del Sur. Senator Cynthia Villar, who authored the amendment of the General Appropriations Act of 2019, said that the pilot testing will take place from November to December this year and will run again next year depending on feedback and success rate. Meanwhile, the Philippine Army is said to beef up its cyber defense capabilities during the second GAT Andres Bonifacio colloquium on Monday. Army spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Ramon Zagala said the forum provided Army leaders and other participating units of the Armed Forces of the Philippines an in-depth discussion of the latest developments and threats in cybersecurity. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Still to come, the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission named 3 most corrupt agencies in the country. And the Presidential Communications Operations Office promotes awareness on violence against women and children. These and more when we return.
Since the signing of our agreement on defense cooperation in 2017, we have exchanges of high-level visits between our defense and security officials, as well as the port calls of our 2 navies. I am pleased that for the first time also, a Philippine Navy vessel sailed to participate in the naval parade in Vladivostok on a Russian day. I am also grateful to the Vidal Discussion Club for this honor to speak before you on a topic of great importance to us, that of an order and change in world politics. I'm talking about fairness and equality and a stable global order.
The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission reported on Monday named 3 most corrupt agencies in the country, dubbed as the 3H. PACC Chairman Dante Jimenez went on to name the 3H as housing from the lack of housing units intended for residents affected by Super Typhoon Yolanda, health from the alleged numerous scams in PhilHealth, and highways for placing in the third spot after being named as the most corrupt agency last year. Jimenez said that they have been receiving more complaints compared to last year, indicating that the public now trusts the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission. He said that change must begin from within in order to achieve a clean government. President Duterte's decision on the possible lifting or another extension of martial law rule in Mindanao would depend on the recommendation of military ground commanders in the region. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo could not, however, confirm whether Duterte will once again ask Congress to extend martial law in the southern Philippines. This comes after presidential daughter and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio sought the lifting of martial law in Davao City. Panelo believes she is only heeding the recommendation of the Davao Police. For its part, the Armed Forces of the Philippines says it will be up to the president to limit martial law to selected areas in Mindanao. AFP spokesperson Edgar Arevalo said the president has the power to limit martial law to areas that still need it. West MINCOM Commander Cirilito Sobejana, meanwhile, confirms martial law is no longer needed in Davao and Cagayan de Oro cities due to their improved peace and order situation. However, he recommended the extension of martial law in areas with a strong presence of terrorists, such as the Abu Sayyaf. East MINCOM Chief Felimon Santos, on the other hand, says they will discuss with the Regional Peace and Order Council whether martial law needs to be extended in their areas. The martial law declaration, which started in May of 2017, is set to expire on December 31 this year. Food manufacturer Century Pacific announces it has signed multiple deals to supply tuna, sardines, and coconut milk products to top Russian firms. Century Pacific agreed to supply tuna and sardine products to magnet food retail chain Dalimo and LLC Dalprom Riba. It will also supply coconut milk products to Pan Asia Impex Company Limited. These were among the business deals worth $12.57 million that were signed during President Rodrigo Duterte's 5-day official visit to Russia early this month. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said the agreements between Century Pacific and the Russians were proof of the government's efforts to find new markets for tuna producers abroad. The Philippines is already the top tuna exporter to Spain, Germany, and Britain, exporting over 170,000 metric tons of tuna to these three markets alone each year. The Presidential Communications Operations Office on Tuesday promoted awareness of violence against women and children at the Department of Social Welfare and Development's Home for Girls in Palawan City, Nueva Ecija. Lawyer Erin Mariel Perez, Gender and Development Speaker of the PCOO, gave a short lecture for residents of the Home for Girls. Perez likewise encouraged the residents of Home for Girls to pursue their education amid all the challenges. Aside from lectures, the PCOO team also brought the girls some stuff for their daily needs. Director Vinci Beltran, Vice Chairperson of the PCOO GAD Focal Point System, said the reach out to victims of violence aims to hear the stories and voices of people like them. The Home for Girls has 81 residents who are from different provinces in Central Luzon. Most of the residents were victims of physical and sexual abuse. The government announces more than 30 million pesos worth of anti-insurgency projects. Meanwhile, a road project is seen to farmers and fishermen from 2 barangays in Butuan City. More on these and other news from the provinces from Ruth Abby Gita Carlos.
Local officials and swine producers in Pampanga assured on Tuesday that pork and other processed meat here are safe to eat despite the reported cases of Asian swine fever in some areas in Luzon. This was announced by Governor Dennis Pineda during the Pork and Meat Festival. Thousands joined the Budal fight where 60 lechon were served, along with other pork dishes such as asado and sisig and processed meat like tocino. Pineda assured the province is implementing all necessary preventive measures for ASF. In South Cotabato, the newly opened Eden's Flower Farm in Tupi Town is drawing raves as the next top agritourism attraction in the province. The farm is home to beds of Malaysian mums already starting to bloom. The farm was formally opened to the public by its owners last October 12 to add to the showcase of the town's booming flower industry. The Department of Tourism in Soxargen is assisting the accreditation of the farm as an agritourism site. Meanwhile, the Joint Task Force Buglasan 2019 in Negros Oriental has deployed around 340 security forces and force multipliers to secure the Buglasan Festival, which runs for 13 days this October. On Monday morning, a send-off ceremony was held for the security forces at the Negros Oriental Provincial Police Office just before the opening of the Buglasan Festival in the afternoon. A parade was held around the city, followed by the formal opening ceremonies at the Capitol grounds. Buglasan, the grandest of all festivals in Negros Oriental, runs from October 14 to 27 with several activities lined up at various venues, mostly in Dumaguete. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ruth Abigita Carlos.
Up next, more rebels and member of terrorist groups surrendered to the government. And Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin suggested the removal of the controversial 9-dash line in the movie Abominable. We will be back after a few reminders.
The most important thing really to remember is that we are working with the blessings of President Putin and of course with maybe the parliament here. We're working on a working visa or something to legitimize your stay. All that I ask is that you obey the laws, do not do anything that would place the relationship of the two countries in jeopardy. Ako, talagang saludo ako sa Russia pati kay Putin. This visit generated greater momentum for the Philippine-Russia relations. There is a key element of our trust to rebalance Philippine foreign policy towards independence, balance, and diplomatic agility. The gains we have made in this visit brings us a step closer to our objective of a stable, comfortable, and secure life for all Filipinos. That is my vision for an abiding duty to the nation, and I will do everything to achieve that, towards that end.
A member of the New People's Army surrendered on Sunday, October 13, to the Army's 27th Infantry Battalion in Barangay Cablon, Tupi Town in South Cotabato Province. The returnee, identified only as alias Darwin, is formerly under the NPA's Guerrilla Front 73. The former rebel said he surrendered due to hunger and fear of death. He also claimed his former comrades are distressed and in low morale following the capture of their leader Nicanor Pason in Maitum, Sarangani Province last week. Pason's group was behind a string of atrocities, including the burning of heavy equipment and public utility vehicles, and has terrorized communities in parts of Sarangani, Sultan Kudarat, and South Cotabato. Meanwhile, 2 members of the NPA in Surigao del Sur also decide to go back to the folds of the law to live normal lives with their families. NPA leader Jesse Ambok Iligan and his colleague Lemuel Parker Daging turned themselves into authorities on Friday. The Army's 36th Infantry Battalion said the 2 rebels have grown disillusioned on the promises of the communist movement. In other news, a member of the Islamic State for Iraq and Syria, inspired Dawlah Islamiya, surrendered to government authorities in Lanao del Sur. Saifoden Makaraya Maute of Barangay Tagoranao, Sultan Dumalondong, was recruited by DI sub-leader Mohammed Kayam Romato Maute. He was involved in a firefight in the Army's 103rd Infantry Brigade in 2016. Mohammed Kayam was killed during the 5-month Marawi siege in 2017. Meanwhile, officials of Colombia, Sultan Kudarat, declared on Monday the communist rebels operating around their town as persona non grata. Lawmakers inked a resolution last week denouncing the communist movement in the area following a Peace and Order Council meeting. Members of the Sangguniang Bayan burned the communist flag in front of the municipal hall grounds, signifying their stand against communism. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. on Wednesday suggested the removal of a scene in the controversial movie Abominable, where China's 9-dash line in the South China Sea was featured. Locsin initially called for the universal boycott of all DreamWorks production for allowing itself to be used for China's propaganda. He said the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board has the power to ban such materials. He also said the public has the power and patriotic duty not to patronize a movie with a message contradicting the Philippines' territorial claim. The movie is a co-production film by DreamWorks and Shanghai-based Pearl Studio, which tells the story of a teenage girl helping a Yeti reach Mount Everest. One of the scenes showed a map with the so-called 9-dash line, which denotes China's unilateral claim in the strategic waters. The 9-dash line was invalidated by the Permanent Court of Arbitration. In Vietnam, which also claims part of the South China Sea, Abominable was blocked shortly after its release following complaints from the viewers. In our 4 news, Thailand declared November 4 and 5 as public holidays in Bangkok and its adjacent province of Nonthaburi, as the government is scheduled to host the ASEAN Summit. The 2-day special holiday was proposed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to reduce traffic congestion and facilitate providing security for ASEAN leaders. However, it is up to state enterprises, financial institutions, and private companies to decide whether they would close on the designated holidays. The ASEAN meetings will be held at Impact Muang Thong Thani in Nonthaburi Province. About 3,000 participants are expected to attend the said meetings. Also joining are delegates from China, South Korea, Japan, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, India, and the United Nations. The latest surge in Japanese tourists to the Philippines can be attributed to the Department of Tourism's successful promotion, as well as the recent trip of President Duterte to Japan. Japanese tourists ranked 3rd in the country's top tourist market, with over 78,000 in August 2019, about 21% higher from the same period last year. The DOT says the president's visit to Japan influenced more Japanese to go to the Philippines because he talked to the leaders of Japan's travel and tourism industry. Duterte visited Japan in May 2019, where he attended the 25th Nikkei International Conference on the Future of Asia and met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Meanwhile, the DOT also lauded the hospitality industry's contribution to the steady growth of the Philippine tourism industry and economy over the years. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the Philippine tourism is now a 2.2 trillion national industry and employs about 5.4 million people. She said due credit must be given to the hospitality sector, which helps push the DOT towards its development goals. Miss Universe Philippines 2019 Gazini Ganados is calling on all Filipinos to help spread awareness on HIV and AIDS. The beauty queen was in Cebu to promote her advocacy amid the rising incidence of HIV/AIDS in the province. Laid Kabagani has the story.
Miss Universe Philippines 2019 Gazini Ganados promoted her advocacy against HIV in the southern portal city of Metro Cebu over the weekend. The Cebuana beauty queen participated in an HIV awareness and prevention forum as well as free HIV screening, side by side with an outreach program held at the People's Hall in Talisay City. Ganados was also named as the newest ambassador of Love Yourself, which is an addition to her advocacy on elderly care. Love Yourself Incorporated is a community-based organization that offers a free and holistic care approach to HIV. Ganados says the need to raise awareness on HIV is relevant and timely because the incidence rate is still rising in the province. Ganados is only one of the international beauty queens who support the Love Yourself advocacy, the others being Miss Universe 2015 Pia Wirchbach and Miss Universe 2018 Catriona Gray. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
Here now is the latest in our community billboard. 2 events dubbed Advocating Mental Health are slated in Baguio City. On October 20, Keep Going, a gathering for mental health, will bring together supporters, advocates, carers, and those that will help workers with mental health issues. The contestants for the Mr. and Miss Summer Capital will also join the event to learn more about mental health. On October 27, runners supporting mental health will participate in Keep Going, a run for mental health, which will start at the Baguio Athletic Bowl. Registration is at 350 pesos per the 3-kilometer race, 450 pesos for the 5 kilometers, 550 pesos for the 10 kilometers, and 650 pesos for the 21-kilometer run. Interested participants may register at the Wings and Butterflies Cafe and Resto at Session Road, Baguio City. For more information, check out the Keep Going, a Run for Mental Health event page on Facebook, or contact Aki Reyes via email or the numbers on your screen. And here's another look at today's biggest stories.
Malacanang will not interfere on the Supreme Court decision on the poll protests filed by former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo dares Bayan Muna Secretary General Renato Reyes to offer solutions instead of finding fault on the country's transport system. The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission names 3 most corrupt agencies in the country, and more rebels and members of terrorist groups surrender to the government.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And as we celebrate the 2nd anniversary of the PNA Newsroom, we thank you for your support in our mission to bring the latest news and information. We look forward to continuously bringing you accurate, truthful, and informative news about the government and the country. On behalf of the Philippine News Agency and their production staff, thank you very, very much. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am William Theo. Good day.